class myself as a 30 break player. I can make a 30 break on a reasonably regular basis. So that probably gives him a clue as to how good I might be.
There you go, Dan in Richmond.
Or
There's
how
your
bad
question.
I might be.
Do you have a table at home, or do you wander down to the local snooker hall?
In the apartments where I'm currently living, there is a snooker table. So that's very handy, particularly in lockdown period. But then, I do play competition snooker, so there's a few places where I can go and have practice games against, decent players. So, a mate of mine once said it's a very addictive game. Well, you can put me in the addicted category.
There's a whole heap of other questions I could ask you about snooker, but we might come back to that. Matt Clinch and Ian Chappell with you for Grandstand at Lunch. India all out for 244 in their first innings. Australia's first innings, 338. In response, Australia 4 for 182. I want to ask you about your impressions of Will Bukowski. Firstly, he spoke on Channel 7 a short time ago.
I was very nervous. It was, it was quite exhilarating. Even just having the anthems 3 or 4 minutes before I went out to face the first ball, I was just sort of almost overcome with emotion. But I've sort of got a few techniques that I've developed over the last few years to try and calm myself down. And there were stages where during the innings I sort of felt a bit jittery, but just knew that if I stuck to my process, hopefully I'd go okay. And it was good to contribute, but I think I still left a few out there probably.
And Puck, just on your own game, in the middle of a test match, and you edge that ball in the second innings, for example, are you someone that will go back and analyse that prior to the next test, or are you happy to just let it fly and go with your gut?
To be honest, Copes, I get pretty relaxed about that stuff. I'll have a quick look at it. I had a quick look at it for 5 minutes afterwards yesterday. Probably worked out where I might have been a tiny bit off in my process, and then it's just move on and go into the next test match with a pretty similar approach, I think. Obviously take some learnings out where you can, because it is another standard and another level, but at the end of the day, all I can do, as I said, is watch the ball and play it the best I can. And there were a few things that I wish I did a little bit differently yesterday, but that's part of cricket.
Will Bukowski there chatting with Trent Copeland on Channel 7. So, Chappelli, we chatted a lot in the lead up to the Test series to finally see him get his crack in Sydney, scores of 62 and 10. What did you make of his Test debut so far?
I think it was very good. I liked what I saw. He looked pretty calm, particularly for a guy playing in his first Test match. He's got a decent stroke range, which you need at Test level. You need to be able to score both sides of the wicket. And I liked his approach to batting in that he was looking to score all the time rather than, looking to survive. I think you've always got to bat, your approach has always got to be you're trying to hit the ball for 4, and then if it's not there to be hit for 4, you're looking to see where you can get a single or a run. And the last line of defence is to either let the ball go or just defend it to keep a good one out of your stumps. And I thought he had that. I thought he had that in the right order. He was looking to score at every opportunity. So I was impressed. I was pretty impressed with the answer he gave there. You don't want to get too technical. I mean, you'll nick one. You get a good ball, which he got in the second innings. He nicked it. I mean, that happens. And another day you'll play and miss at it, and you go on and get a decent score. So, I remember a lot of people have said to me, I bet you wish you had all the technology when you were playing. And I quite honestly say, no, I'm quite happy that we didn't have it, because I saw myself bat once and it was nothing like my imagination of my batting. And I thought, right, I've either got to rub it all out and start again, or I've got to never watch a replay again. And I didn't never watch a replay again, because it was going to be too hard. At that age, it was going to be too hard to rub it out and start again. So, you don't want to get too... The difference, if you have a look at your batting when you're making runs and when you're not making runs, there won't be too much difference. Where the difference will be is inside your head.
Ian Chappell alongside Matt Clinch with you for Grandstand at Lunch. Australia 4 for 182. Andrew was in touch with a similar thought to mine as to wondering how the West Indian Quicks would have gone with DRS back in their heyday, but we might expand on that at a later date. In terms of India, it sort of feels like it's become a bit of a war of attrition really for them, with injuries at each test and then a couple picked up here yesterday with Pant and Jadeja. So ahead of the Brisbane test, and we're still trying to get confirmation as to whether that'll go ahead, it sort of looms as an interesting challenge. They were all out for 36 in Adelaide and they came back and responded well in Melbourne. I'm fascinated to see how they'll respond given some great bowling and fielding from Australia and now the game firmly on Australia's hands.
Well, I think, in a longer series, 4-test series, what happens is one team tends to wear down a bit and the other side gets on top psychologically, and I think Australia are very close to that point now. And it won't surprise me if Australia go on and win this test match, particularly if they win it pretty comfortably. It won't surprise me if India fade a bit in the 4th test.
Dan's been back in touch from Richmond. Okay, Ian, I consider you a good snooker player. Having lived in Scotland for 12 years, I understand the game and the handicap and the break all very well. So Dan says thank you very much. I did chat with Neil Robinson a couple of weeks ago. He's going okay as well in the UK with his record talking snooker. Does it feel like an important sort of afternoon for Cam Green? He's obviously been put in there as a batsman more than a bowler to support with the ball, but if he could get some runs here, that would probably justify him staying in for the rest of the series.
Yeah, I thought he looked pretty good in that second innings in Melbourne. I thought he started to relax a bit. We started to see a few more shots from him, and he started to look like he was a bit more in control. But then, a failure in the first innings here at the SCG probably has him thinking, I need some runs here. Once again, I think he's looked quite good. There's no doubt that he's got the ability. It's just, you just need to get that breakthrough, the first decent score. I mean, 100 is the big one. That's the one that allows you to think, right, I deserve to be here. I'm part of this team, and 100 will get you probably another 3 tests at least as a minimum. So that's why the 100 is really important. But it's the confidence it gives you. Cameron Green at the moment would probably be happy with a 50 or a 60. He may not get the opportunity to go on and get 100 here, but yeah, I think a 50 or a 60 would once again have him. I don't think he's in danger of losing his spot. If the next test is at the Gabba, he'll get a bit more bowling. His bowling is good enough that he's going to get some wickets. That breakthrough will come. So I don't think he's in danger of losing his spot in the team, but a 50 or a 60 wouldn't hurt him, confidence-wise.
So Cam Green so far for the series, 11 in Adelaide, didn't bat in the second, 12 and 45 in Melbourne, and obviously a duck in the first innings. With the ball, he's bowled 9 overs in Adelaide in the first dig, 12 in Melbourne in the first as well, and then none for 11 from the 5 overs in India's first innings. Righto, Chappelli, so heading towards the second session, what do you think we'll be looking at tea? What sort of score will Australia pose?
I think there'll be a bit of acceleration in this session. I don't think Australia would want to go past this session. As I said before, four as a minimum. I think they'd like to. The ideal situation is to give the opposition 10 minutes. In other words, the opposing opposition opening batsmen have got to charge into the dressing room, stick their pads on and the rest of the gear and get straight out there. They haven't got time for a shower or anything. So I think that would be the ideal. And I was never any good when I was captain at working out what the thing is with the declaration around the tea break. I always had to rely on the local secretary to tell me
to work it all out for you.
Yeah. That just never computed with my brain for some reason or other. But so that's what I'd be looking at sometime just before tea.
Okay.
To give the opening batsman just the 10 minutes to charge off the ground and get padded up.
Good on you, Chappelli. Great to have you back. Australia 4 for 182 at lunch.
the drought, the bushfires, and now COVID.
You're doing a magnificent job keeping everybody informed.
Love it every day, mate. I can listen to you every morning.
Absolutely vital that you're there.
Done it all, but in between trying to make us feel good.
It must be love, love, love.
Your trusted source of accurate and timely emergency information. ABC Radio, TV, and the all-new ABC Emergency website.
It must be love, love, love.
ABC. Stay connected.
ABC Sport. Australia versus India.
And he's bowled all over the shop. Hits it in the air, takes the catch and then cover. Walks across and he's gone. What about that?
It's ballooning away towards shore, they've taken. On your radio, ABC Sport Digital Radio, and on the ABC Listen app.
Welcome back to ABC Sports coverage of Day 4 of the SCG Test. Australia is 4 for 182, leading by 276 runs. Steve Smith is 58, Cam Green is 20. Australia starting the day 2 for 103 and gained 35 runs before Marnus Labuschagne was caught in the slips for 73, and Matthew Wade departed shortly after on 4. Aaron Bryans with you in the Grandstand host studio to run through the sports news of the day before we head back to the SCG for the second session. There are conflicting reports at the moment about the status of the 4th test at the Gabba, with an unnamed Indian cricket board official telling the Times of India that the test will go ahead as long as the visitors can leave the country immediately after its conclusion. Meanwhile, the Australian is actually reporting that Indian officials have informed Cricket Australia they do not want to play the 4th test in Brisbane at all because of fears of the highly infectious UK strain of coronavirus that's currently outbroken there, and that could jeopardise their forthcoming series against England at home. But Cricket Australia is still confident that the tour will proceed, and as soon as we get any news on that 4th test, we'll let you know through our coverage on ABC Sport. Arsenal, Manchester United and Everton have advanced to the 4th round of the FA Cup overnight, while 2nd Division Derby was eliminated by 6th Division Chorley 2-0, and West Brom was defeated by Blackpool in penalties. There are 8 NBA games going on today, and the only result so far is the Nuggets defeating the 76ers 115-103 after Philadelphia were forced to play with just 7 active players, with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid both being ruled out with injuries, and the remainder of their squad staying in isolation following a coronavirus outbreak. And the NFL playoffs are underway as well, with the Bills defeating the Colts and the Rams eliminating the Seahawks. But it is Day 4 of the SCG Test on ABC Sport. Australia 4 for 182, leading by 276 runs. Steve Smith is 58 and Cam Green is 20. The wickets to fall today, Marnus Labuschagne for 73 and Matthew Wade shortly after that on 4. So Australia with a lead of 276 runs heading into the second session on the SCG, which we're headed to next on ABC Sport.
ABC Radio, your local source of national and international news, weather and emergency information. We engage with audiences through both analogue and digital radio services. In times of emergency, all the latest news and information can be heard via your local ABC radio station, online at abc.net.au/radio or via the ABC radio app, or head to abc.net.au/news for further news and information. ABC Radio, across Australia.
Grandstand cricket, Australia versus India.
Short of delivery, he's able to knock it up into the air. Easy catch for the bowler.
Getting it outside the off-stump, he's got the edge.
He's bowled, he's gone through him.
On your radio, ABC Sport Digital Radio, and on the ABC Listen app.
Australia in a strong position on Day 4 of the SCG Test, a 276 run lead. They're 4 for 182. Steve Smith 58, Cam Green is 20. It's time to head back to the SCG for that second session. Robin Chipperfield and Trent Copeland waiting there.
Thank you, Aaron. Good afternoon to you and welcome back to the SCG, which, as you can imagine, looks a picture this afternoon. The sun is out. The 2 umpires, Paul Rifle and Paul Wilson, are just making their way onto the outfield beneath us. The Spider Cam is poised as well to welcome the 2 umpires, and the Indian team congregate on the edge of the boundary, and they will make their way towards the wicket very soon, with Australia leading, as Aaron mentioned, by 276. 4 for 182. Smith unbeaten on 58, looking immovable before lunch. Green has 20, The men out today, Marnus Labuschagne, caught down the leg side by the substitute keeper, Sahar, for 73. That off the bowling of Saini, Navdeep Saini, remember on Test debut. Matthew Wade caught behind off a good delivery from Saini for 4. So Smith and Green with work to do in this session, and it'll be interesting to see whether there's a notable change in approach. It was patient in the extreme before lunch. You would imagine that these two might just try and put their foot down a little bit this afternoon. Trent Copeland is back alongside me for commentary in the early stages after lunch. And Trent, good afternoon. What about the approach, particularly from Australia, from here? Do they begin to put the foot to the metal?
Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone listening at home, on the road, wherever you might be. I think you're right. Australia are fully in control, and they can probably just bat normally and be well in advance of anywhere they would need to be to feel comfortable. So I think this next half an hour to 45 minutes will tell us how they're going to approach it. But I would say if they can eke their way to a 320 to 340 lead somewhere an hour before, or half an hour before tea, to give their bowlers a little dip, but that also makes sure that they have a relatively new ball for the final session, and then also a new ball available to them for a big chunk of tomorrow.
Yeah,
for a second dip.
What are they now? They're 276 ahead. If they collapsed in an absolute heap this afternoon, and they'd have a lead of 320 already, and I think most people would be very confident of Australia winning with a lead of 320. So,
if I'm going to be brutally honest, I think they've got 40 too many as it is.
Well, declare now then. Get on with it. Well, let's see what happens this afternoon. As it is Mohammad Siraj who got through a lot of overs before lunch. In the absence of one or two, Siraj is going to come into bowl to Cameron Green, and Green is pushing it back down the pitch, and there'll be no run. We have a slip, a gully, cover mid-off, mid-on Ravi Ashwin. There are two men close in on the leg side, straight, well, I suppose at mid-on, standing basically a metre or so off the cut wicket. There's a mid-wicket, square leg, close to the umpire, and fine leg as well. Barely a cloud in the sky, and the flags on top of the pavilion are not fluttering as vigorously as they have in the previous couple of days, as Siraj is in again to Green, who's punching this and will go through for a quick single. There's a shy at the stumps from Vihari, which I think was never going to cause too many alarms for Cameron Green. And the first run after the lunch interval takes Australia onto 4 for 183 and a lead of 277.
Yeah, nice intent early on from Cameron Green there after the lunch interval. I've been pretty impressed with Cameron Green today. Put under the pump that 21 or 22 ball duck in the first innings. India have made life really difficult for him to score.
Here's Siraj into Smith, who's pulling away down towards fine leg, fine shot. Has it got all the way? It has. There's a start after lunch for Steve Smith. What a beautiful shot that was. Siraj just dropping short. And he didn't even try and smash it hard. He has just helped it on its way, and it has sailed into the Clive Churchill stand. A maximum for Steve Smith off the third ball after lunch. He's on to 64. It's 4 for 189.
Well, is that a sign of intent?
Well, if that isn't, I don't know what is.
Yeah. Smith shot. Yeah, Smith looked like the actual action of the pull shot looked like he was trying to roll it down and hit it along the ground. It may well have been a top edge. Either way, it played it with intent. The intent was certainly to hit a boundary.
Yeah.
And he'll take the 6, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Siraj, again with a thought or two popped into his mind, into the bowl, and that's on leg stump and flicked again by Smith. This time all along the ground for 4. So 11 off the first 4 balls. And Smith on to 68, Green 21. And this first over after lunch is looking very different to what we saw before.
Yeah, really disappointing. This goes hand in hand with the drop catch second ball this morning. The first over is so important in setting the tone for a day and setting a tone for a session. bowlers know this. This is where you need to lead from the front, so Siraj will be disappointed.
Yeah, we'll see whether it is intent, whether Australia have changed their tactics. I know it's an odd thing to say with 11 off the first 4 balls. Siraj comes into bowl and Matt Smith clipping into the onside, into a gap. And as the ball tailed into it, it's out towards Agarwal, the substitute fielder, and 3 for 1. It's just that the opportunities have presented themselves in this first over. The short ball which he pulled away, and then a leg glance for 4. And the easy assumption is, right, Australia are getting onto it. But I actually think it's been bad bowling and they've taken opportunity.
Yeah, poor execution, 100%. And you know what, that last ball to me, to the naked eye, definitely reversed back into Stephen Smith. And normally you'd say India would be enthused with that. I'll tell you what, they won't be, because they know it's coming at them.
Siraj into Green, full-length delivery, which doesn't deviate offline, and Green is pushing it back towards the bowler. Siraj does his own fielding and threatens to throw at the stumps, but Green's back-footed, never left the crease. And there is no run at the end of all of that. So 10-12 off the over. An encouraging start for Australia after the lunch interval. Green 21, Smith 69 on the SMS 0467 920 222. And David asks, how many times has a team that has lost the toss at the SCG gone on to win the game? Rick Finlay in Hobart is a man that can answer that very question.
In all tests, Robin, 46 wins, 42 losses for the toss loser and 20 draws. And since 2009 wins, 9 losses and 4 draws.
Doesn't seem to make much of a difference then here if you win the toss or it's almost a 50-50 split. 4 for 194 it is. Sunshine here in Sydney this afternoon. Been going after lunch, and Ravi Ashwin playing the ball from the man end of the ground.
It's certainly one of the venues where I know when we turn up here for Sheffield Shield cricket as a bowler, the morning of day one, you watch the captain walk out for the toss. You might be in the middle of a game or a run through or a stretch. You all hold your breath. You want to win that toss.
Ashwin's going to bowl to Smith. He's forward on this and coming down the wicket, clipping it into the onside, and there is no run. 4 fielders back here. There's a deep square leg, deep mid-wicket and long on for Smith. So close in on the leg side as Ashwin bowls to Smith, who's sweeping and finding a gap on the onside and picking up 4 more. That's a super shot from Steve Smith. Hit it with enough power and direction to dissect those 2 fielders out on the boundary rope, and he picks up 4 more. I'm beginning to think the intent has changed.
Yeah, this is looking ominous for India. Steve Smith, he played a few of the old stand-up sweeps to try and hit boundaries before lunch.
Ashwin into Smith, who plays that stand-up sweep. This has gone fine, but he's not got all of it. And it will dribble away down towards fine leg. It's fielded by Saini, and the through for a single. So 4 for 199, and the lead is 293. Exactly 50 partnership it is. 51 runs from 99 balls, with Smith getting 30 of them and Green 21.
Of course, a stand-up sweep, certainly in my memory, famous by Sachin Tendulkar. He used to play it a lot in the subcontinent. Traditional sweep down on one knee, hitting hard in front of square or just behind. Stand up, upright, hitting right behind the keeper.
Ashwin goes to Green, tripping back towards the bowler, and there's no run. This is good for Green, isn't it, what Smith is doing, because it takes the pressure off him. I suppose the difficulty is not trying to do the same as Steve Smith, play your own game and not get caught up in the excitement of the run feast that we are beginning to watch here. Here's Ashwin into Green, who's down the wicket, looking busy, but can only punch it back to Ashwin, and there's no run.
He is a naturally proactive scorer. Certainly scores quickly in Shield cricket.
Ashwin into the tall Green again, flicked into the onside, well fielded by Vihari at short leg, diving away to his left-hand side. 5 off that over. It's 4 for 199. Green 21. Smith has 74. And the lead is up to 293. And Trent Copeland alongside himself, Robin Chipperfield, here at the SCG on day 4. If you want to keep asking questions or come up with points of view, The SMS number, a reminder, is 0467 920 222. 0467 920 222.
Yeah, when should Australia declare?
There's a question.
How much do they need?
I think they might have time for another 100 and have half an hour before tea. And that would surely bat India out the game. Chasing 400 on this wicket with the time left. There's Siraj into Smith, who's on the back foot.
Yeah, I believe the highest ever run chase here in the fourth innings of the Test is about 282 or something like that. It was Ricky Ponting's 100th Test match, scored 100 in both innings, and they got it 2 down. Outside of that, there's barely been a score over 260. So the lead of 293 right now, I would say India already up against it.
I can hear the mouse clicking in Hobart from here. We'll be back with Rick in a moment. As Siraj comes into bowl, and that's turned away by Smith into the onside, forward to square for a very comfortable single.
And that Test match shot, well, let's see how close I am to the mark when Rick does get involved, but I remember that Test. I was in the crowd watching big Andre Nell playing for South Africa, but I remember a lot of rain in that Test match early on. Right. So it definitely didn't break up like it normally does on day 4 and 5.
4 for 200. We'll go to Rick in Hobart after this ball about run chases here at the SCG. As Siraj is into Green, clipped away off his hips, down towards fine leg, and Green will pick up a single as well. 4 for 201. Rick, the run chases. Is Trent near the mark?
Yes, that's right. I've just been looking here actually at India in the fourth innings of the SCG in past tours. That's happened 3 times. In 1968, they made only 197, chasing 342. 2008, they made all out for 210, chasing 333. 2014, they managed to draw 7 for 252, chasing 349. So the declaration target looks about 340, 330, 340.
Thank you, Rick. Good shot here from Steve Smith as Siraj spears it down the leg side, and Smith is across and getting bat on it and playing it fine, a bit like the shot in the previous over. And he'll pick up another boundary. He's been fed a bit here, Steve Smith.
Yeah, really poor execution. I was actually really impressed with Siraj in his old ball spells at the MCG, but that ball there, I mean, this ball is starting to reverse swing. It should be a real asset to a bowler. But Siraj, that ball where Steve Smith made contact was almost a metre down leg side.
Finally, I think it's just come a bit finer to try and stop that shot, which has happened twice in 2 overs. Siraj in again, well pitched up and flicked away by Smith, forward to square this time on the onside. It's half stopped by Shubman Gill, and they'll go through for a single. Gill and Rohit Sharma both adopting the floppy sun hats today, both close in on the leg side.
And I said this last time I was on air, I think India are hedging their bets far too much with these plans. So Siraj should be either going straight at the batsman with this in-swing, reverse swing, but if that's the case and that is the plan, we can lose the slip. Let's have a leg slip.
Yeah.
Let's have the deep square in front of square to give you that luxury.
4 for 206. Siraj in, and behind it firmly is Green. Pushing the ball to Rohit Sharma. And there's no run, so 4 for 206. The lead is exactly 300. And we saw, 7 off that over from Siraj. So India have got it all on at the moment to contain Australia. And you can feel the runaway train is just beginning to gather speed and gather momentum. And how do India prevent it rolling too much further? I think it's difficult, especially with the injuries they've got. The Bumrah problem must be quite serious as well. And he was being spoken to a couple of times last night by the physio on the boundary. He said he's out there actually. I'm not convinced he is. Around the field in a moment. Ashwin is going to get the ball to bowl from the Randwick end with Steve Smith on strike, and Smith on to 80.
Yeah, it looked like an abdominal sort of area, maybe an oblique. Never easy to bowl through, and maybe they've thought to themselves it's not worth it.
No. Got to try and get him ready for the fourth test. As Smith comes down the wicket, there's a big gap on the offside. And Smith bat and pad close together. Allows the ball to hit his bat and squeeze out for a single. Out towards cover on the Indian bowling. Questioning on the SMS, should India play Natarajan over Saini? Presumably in Brisbane. Assuming it's Brisbane, but presumably in Brisbane. Should they have done that here? There's Ashwin into Green, pushes it back towards the bowler and there's no run.
Yeah, it's very impressive in the white ball stuff, but certainly Saini, I've spoken to Simon Kadich, who coached him at the IPL,
There's Ashwin into Green on the back foot, finding a gap on the offside, and he'll pick up another run.
And Simon Kadich, along with many of the Indian players, along with Virat Kohli, who's the captain of RCB, very excited about Saini's prospects. Skills with the new ball, standing the seam up and the like, and his pace in particular. So airspeed of the SCG is a real asset, and I can see why they've gone with him over Natarajan.
Ashwin he's bowled him, as you know, he's caught him on the pad. They're appealing for LBW, and it's not out. I thought that had got back between bat and pad. They're going to appeal. They're going to the third umpire at India. Smith just pushed forward, bat and pad close together. I thought it had just squeezed through, but it didn't. It struck him on the pad, and they're going to see whether they've got Steve Smith out here for 81. Let's hear what the third umpire has to say as we await the replays here. Honestly, this could only take 20 minutes. We'll have a decision for you in 20 minutes. Here we go.
Yeah, it looks to be clear space between bat and pad. Can I just
well, in terms of where it's struck him on the pad, if there's no inside edge,
certainly nothing there.
It's quite adjacent.
Yeah, this will be close, but given not out, crucially on the field.
Yeah, I've got clear daylight between bat and ball as it passes. So we'll get a ball tracking when ready, please.
I don't think height is going to be a problem here.
Okay, first of all, the impact is in line and the wickets is hitting.
Out. Steve Smith is out. It's hitting the top of leg stump, and Smith must go for 81. He falls short of a second century in the match. It's a magnificent innings from Smith. He was really just beginning to get going after lunch, but he falls LBW to Ashwin. Australia are 5 for 208. The lead is up above 300 though.
Well, massive wicket for India if they are going to have any chance in this match. But let's take a moment to reflect on what has been a fantastic test match from one of Australia's greatest ever. Already with a man so young, Steve Smith. 81 in the second innings to follow up the first innings 100. He'd had a couple of light-on test matches by his standards in the first two of this series. But he's back to his best here at his home ground, the SCG.
The thing is, and you can almost see it in his body language as he strides off, holding his bat halfway up. He's made 100 in the first innings, he's made 81, and he's walking off, cheesed off.
Yeah,
isn't he?
Both he and Marnus, this is the best analogy that I can come up with. They're both like, no matter how they get out, whether they're not out, they are like kids in the backyard when they keep saying, come on, one more. Come on, one more.
Stephen,
they're never out.
Stephen, it's dark. You've got to come in.
Yeah, my shoulder's fallen off. I can't throw any more balls.
Tim Payne comes to the wicket. The Australian captain, of course, who was out to Bumrah for just a single in the first innings. It's a very good delivery from Ashwin. Spent so long talking about the appeals procedure and where it's pitching, whether it's hitting back. Forget to appreciate the bowling sometimes, and that was well bowled from Ashwin. Just turned in to beat the bat of Smith and struck him on the pad. Now the field gathers with a slip, short leg slip, mid-wicket close in as well. 5 for 208. Ashwin into Payne, who's getting to the pitch of it and knocking it back towards Ashwin, and there is no run. 5 for 208. Smith out then for 81, earlier Labuschagne 73 and Wade for 4. Ashwin to Payne, who's looking to get off the mark but won't. He clips the ball out into the offside, and that completes a wicket taking over for Ravi Ashwin, who has the figures of 2 for 64 and claims the wicket of Steve Smith. Not for the first time in the series, but Smith will be much happier with a tally of 212 in the Test match so far. Well, complete 212 in the Test match. He's not going to bat again.
Yes. Yeah, fantastic Test match. I've been much more impressed with Ravi Ashwin's bowling this time around, this tour, compared to any other time I've seen him bowling here in Australia. The setup and exposing of Steve Smith in Adelaide to me was a Nathan Lyon type dismissal. Normally we see such a square seam subcontinental style by Ashwin, and he doesn't adapt that much. But this tour he's much more over the top, 45 degree traditional off spinner, and then uses the square seam ball to catch the outside edge, which he did in Adelaide.
Siraj comes in to bowl to Green, who's trying to work this away on the leg side. It's a bit of pad with the thigh and squirts out on the off, and there's no run. 5 for 208. The lead is 302. And India looking to make further inroads here. Looking to create issues as well, aren't they, with what they do later in this innings and what they've done already, with Wade being out cheaply to a good ball, to be fair, from Saini. What will be the talk in the newspapers, what will be the discussion points in pubs around Australia about the makeup of the side for the fourth Test. Assume if they win it, and assuming they win it, very tempted to go same again, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. No need to change, I guess, particularly with Bukovsky looking so at home, I guess you could say, at the top of the order.
Siraj into Green, clipped into the onside powerfully, but finds only Vihari at mid-wicket. And there is no run. 5 for 208.
The health of David Warner and his injury might be of some concern, but given the nature of it being a tight turnaround, I would have thought, cool your jets, have a bit of a rest. No training required. Let's get to the next Test match and make sure we win that.
So far, he's done nothing to make it any worse, you wouldn't think. He's not overstretched it.
Other than the first day, the first run that he took, where there was a bit of grimacing on the face and some concern over him, but he certainly fielded well in the slips, and then when he had to run around in the field, he did a fantastic job.
Here comes Siraj. And the bowl's clipped away into the onside. Again, Shubman Gill was going to do the fielding, and then it went under his hand, but there's no run for Green in any case. So 5 for 208 remains the way of it. Beneath gorgeous blue skies at the SCG. India slowing down again, taking a while to get through their overs, which I guess any side would do in this position, but it is frustrating, particularly for the crowd. Did not see many overs before lunch. And as Siraj turns again to run away from us into Green on the back foot, knocking it back towards the bowler, and again there is no run. 2 balls left in the over. And Green looking solid so far.
Yeah, he really is. We saw the second innings in Adelaide. Joe Burns had an opportunity there to score some runs and potentially springboard himself back into form and keep his spot, which he ended up doing for the Boxing Day Test. This to me is sort of similar situation in the sense of his place in the side with Green, but a fantastic opportunity to absorb some pressure, learn what it's like out in the middle.
Siraj into Green, and again he's right behind it and pad in line,
and facing Ashwin on a late day 4 wicket. Some reverse swing from some pretty handy bowlers that are used to doing this in the subcontinent.
Yeah,
great exposure for a young guy.
This is not experience that Green is going to use anytime soon. This will be 2 years, 4 years, 6 years down the track, won't it? That he looks back on this kind of experience. As Siraj again is into Green, and he tries to cut this away on the offside, but it just ducked back into him a bit and ended up closer to his off stump than perhaps he originally thought, and just guided it down into the gully, and there is no run. 5 for 208 then. The lead is 302. I'm going to make way in the commentary box, and the doyen Jim Maxwell is here for you next.
Ashwin. So just 2 wickets to off spin in this game, both taken by Ashwin, who bowls to Payne, who defends down the pitch. Hello, Trent. You well?
I'm going well, Jim. Yourself?
Not too bad. Yeah. Enjoying the atmosphere of being here at the SCG in a test match, and Payne down the pitch. Can't get that past mid-on, so he doesn't score. So the lingering question for all the punditry around the place is, how long will Australia bat for? Well, so often when you say it, they get out. Back goes Payne. He turns it around the corner to backward square. And you just sense on this pitch, if India maintain some discipline with the ball, that Australia might get out trying to push it. Because the pitches are not easy to play shots on, as Ashwin bowls again and he defends down the onside.
Yeah, particularly in the last 2 days against fast bowling and good length bowling that goes either up or down. Ashwin started to find some good turn.
Slip, short mid wicket, and Payne plays it past that short mid wicket, and they get a run. They get 2, in fact, out into the deep country where Agarwal is running around. So Payne's off the mark with a couple. Green's 23, 5 for 210. Labuschagne out earlier for 73, caught gloving one down the leg side. Smith out just a moment or two ago on the review. LBW to Ashwin, and the ball clearly crashing into the top of his leg stump. Now mid-on goes out and Green moves forward and just clips the ball out on the onside, and Paul Rifle goes wandering off to the onside, and it looks just like the Paul Rifle I remember, wandering back to the top of his mark. May have been a bit pacier in those days with his shuffle, but it's 5 for 210 at the end of the over.
Yeah, we're just talking a little bit before with Robin about Cameron Green and the valuable experience he's getting out of this innings. Certainly there's a lot of focus on declarations, but one thing I know for sure is that he's just batting, soaking it up with someone as experienced as Steve Smith initially, and now the skipper himself, Tim Payne.
So here is Green watching and waiting and pushing the ball back down the pitch from Siraj coming in from this Paddington end. Yes, despite the fact that he's obviously got a lot of potential, I mean, he hasn't played a lot of first-class cricket. So he's really soaking up the experience of becoming a first-class come test player by being here.
Particularly a man that's grown up in the West on the fast bouncy wickets in Perth.
Yes, this is more distrustful, this surface, as he goes back and shuffles a thick edge down to third man for 4. Well, if he changed his shot to do that, that was very clever. Thick outside edge, wide of slip. It wasn't a chance. And it went down to the boundary, and he goes to 27.
Yeah, all the way along the ground. That one reversing in towards the stumps. Cameron Green just looking to defend that ball. Outside edge for 4. Yeah, look, I think it probably goes largely unknown for those listening out there how difficult it is to have grown up playing on the fast bouncy wickets in Perth to then play a game, and particularly a test match at the SCG, a wicket that you've not played much on. So different.
Siraj charges in and bowls in his back, and he's nudging it away square of the wicket on the offside. There's a lot of space out there because of the packed onside field. We're going slip cover mid-off, and then we've got a short mid-on, and in fact Rahane changing the field now for Tim Payne. But there was a 6-3 split in the field with a few close-in catches there. 5 for 215. Australia 309 to the good. And yes, the difference in pitches so often brought West Australian batsmen undone here, as it did for New South Wales in Perth. In goes Siraj, pitching right up. Payne plays it back with a shuffle down the pitch.
It's certainly in my experience with Cameron Green, we've played against him a couple of times, and one of those times we had our full Australian bowling attack playing here at the SCG, and reverse swing knocked him over in both innings early on in his first 20 balls. So it's an experience that is just so so different to the fast, bouncy nature in Perth that this is not just about the here and now. This is the making of Green as a batter.
Siraj goes in and he's forced away by Payne through the covers. A couple of runs here as Vihari chases it back. They go, no, not for a third, just two, as the throw comes in from deep in the covers. And a couple more to Payne, just working that ball away on the front foot. He's 4. It's 5 for 217.
And Jim, people might be thinking, oh, what is the difference? Like, as a batter, what do you have to do differently? Well, the fast bouncy nature means you can just lean on drives. You don't have to overly hit them hard and then play the cut and pull shot a lot. Well, here, you basically have to play a completely different style of game.
Siraj runs in again and Payne clips him away towards mid-wicket where there's a tumbling save by Rohit Sharma, and that's the end of the over. And just for the time being, that's the end of Trent Copeland. Thank you very much, Trent. He's going for a spell in his many caps and suits between TV and radio. And Ian Chappell's about to come into the spot alongside me. 7 runs from that over. And Rick, you're listening on the line. Let's have some bowling figures for these fellas. Siraj and Ashwin. It'll save me digging it out of my iPad.
Siraj 22 overs, 5 maidens, 1 for 63. Ashwin 20 overs, 4 maidens, 1 for 51.
Okay, so Ashwin. I think Ashwin's got 2 for Rick. Yep. The only 2 wickets.
Correct.
Yes, 2 wickets. So what's he up to? 376 Test wickets, something like that. Somewhere up there. But see, it's Cameron Green. He's facing him and he's forward and he's playing to the onside. Good afternoon. How are you, Chappelli? You well?
I'm good, thank you, James. Hello to all of our listeners.
Did you get your ice cream?
No,
it's very sad.
Yes, it is. Yeah, very sad. Used to have beautiful ice creams here at the SCG, but they dropped them off.
Ashwin bowls, forward goes Green. He plays the ball more with his pad than his bat out on the offside. So a good test for the greenhorn, as it were, Cameron.
Yeah, a very good test for him.
Let's see what he does with Ashwin. He's on the stumps, turning. And he's getting a single. Just foozled the ball away towards square leg into a gap in that strong onside field. And away they go. Green 29. What do you think so far watching him bat?
Well, I thought in Melbourne in that second innings he started to relax a little bit. He started to play a few more shots. And I think you saw enough there to think that the guy's, he's got a real chance.
Payne's facing Ashwin, and Payne's forward clips the ball out to Sharma at mid-wicket.
Yeah, I'm not one who thinks that he needs to get a score in this innings to hold his place. I think his place is assured.
Ashwin goes up, down the pitch. He has a whack at that and sends it away out towards deep mid-wicket. Agarwal comes around to pick up, and they get just a single. Intent from Payne. Didn't grab hold of it, dragged it out to deep mid-wicket for a single.
Yeah, and if the next test is played at the Gabba, his bowling will be quite useful at the Gabba. So he's in the side to. Well, he should be in the side to stay.
Here comes Ashwin, and it's turned away around the corner for a quick single. Well run there, as it went quite quickly to backward square, but Payne hustled him through. Green's 30, Payne's 5. Another over goes by at 5 for 220. The lead is 314. So we've just been talking a bit in the last spot there with Trent Copeland about the Australian team. I would have thought Warner's position's in a bit of doubt. I mean, he's not fit. He's clearly not 100% fit. Do you keep him playing while he's not 100% fit?
Oh, if he tells me he can get through the 5 days, then he's in the team as far as I'm concerned. With an experienced player like Warner, I'd be asking him, because he knows, he's played enough Test cricket to know. And the other thing about him, he knows what he can do and what he can't do, and because of his experience, he's going to not do the things that he can't do and stick with what he can do. But I think they've got to keep him in the team because it's not just the runs. I think he brings a lot else to the Australian team, and so I don't see any problem with. If he feels he can get through the next test, then he's in as far as I'm concerned.
Well, he's got a few more days between now and then, so that injury may well have repaired itself a bit more, but he hasn't looked 100%, but strong enough in the field. Is Bumrah bowls a ball here in a new spell, right up on a length, and Green plays it down the pitch. I suppose the interesting question about the Australian batting order is, as a result of Wade perhaps playing a poor shot in the first innings, out cheaply in the second, all of a sudden you go back to Travis Head in the middle order?
Well, the thing I was going to say about David Warner, they took a gamble in this test match, and Australia are going to win the test match, so no damage done there.
Here's Bumrah bowling to Green. Green is beaten outside the off stump. Just fished at that ball and missed it, and it went low to Saha.
That's another reason not to fish, Jim.
Yes.
When you're playing cricket.
You don't want to bite when you're fishing.
No.
Yeah.
With Wade, I don't see that they're going to change a winning team. I think they'll give him another opportunity. That's one area where Green does look a little vulnerable. He likes to sort of play a knees bent. That was almost a squeeze. Sometimes he plays a bit of a cut shot, but on that occasion it was like trying to squeeze the ball behind point when it's a bit too close to be doing that. Plus he buckles at the knees when he does it.
Now they're changing the field to try and set something up with a short mid-off extra cover with a slip in the gully, a short mid-wicket. Bumrah trying to bowl straight with variable bounce, comes in and bowls to him, and it's pitched up and driven smoothly away down towards mid-off. No run.
And the other thing is, you don't go fishing when you're playing cricket, and you don't order duck when you go to the Chinese meal.
Don't you?
No, well, you don't want to have anything to do with ducks when you're playing cricket, James.
I like it better when you take the bait though on something. That's what I've got to try something else.
Righto.
As Bumrah comes in to bowl a ball that's pushed away on the offside. My next bit of bait is that if there happened to be a niggle to any of the Australian fast bowlers, who'd replace them? Who's the next man on the list?
Well, Pattinson, if he'd been fit...
he's had an argument with the lawnmower.
Yeah, has he?
He went fishing with the lawnmower.
Well, there's another thing. Don't mow lawns.
Don't mow lawns. Oh, we've been through that one too.
I like the look of Jai Richardson when he played, going back a bit. I think there's a bit about him.
Here's Bumrah bowling at Green, and Green is back, and he's taken on the body. Has he nipped that up in the air? He hasn't. It isn't a catch. But it was a miscue out there on the offside. Vihari in close in that short mid-off cover position.
He should have swallowed that.
Was that off the pad or the
I think
bat?
It's off the leading edge. Yeah.
It is off the leading edge. And did it go to him on the full?
No, but he should have swallowed it. It took a week to get going.
Yeah. Well, he hasn't had a great day in the field. He dropped one second ball of the day, a lolly out at backward square, and that just landed in front of him, spooned up by Cameron Green. And Green now is cramped on his pads and playing away to the onside. And that is the end of the over. So it's 5 for 220, Payne 5 and Green 30. So you're Jai Richardson ahead of perhaps Michael Neser? His next cap off
I haven't seen much of Neser. I mean, Neser probably, he's in the squad, so obviously the selectors have got him ahead of. Mind you, Richardson's also coming back from injury, so he may not have been ready to come into the squad. Who else? There's one other. There's another young quickie. Oh, Abbott. They've got Abbott in the squad as well.
Abbott's in the squad. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I've seen a bit of Abbott. Haven't seen much of Neser, but I like Jai Richardson a lot. But obviously they're not going to pick him because he's not in the squad.
No, he's got more wickets last night as Payne makes space for Ashwin. And then the ball follows him into the line of the leg stump. Payne just looking a bit more furtive out there to try and knock the ball into gaps, keep the board ticking over. He's got a few gaps there if he can find them, with Ashwin going in again and Payne back and turns the ball away and gets an easy single out on the onside to the deep field. He's 6. It's 5 for 221. The other interesting thing were the last test to be played here, and you'd imagine it would be played on a similar surface to this. Would you play 2 spinners?
I'd be thinking seriously about it, and that may be where Wade could be in trouble.
And he tosses up and down the pitch. It's just nursed away by Green straight. A gentle push past the bowler on the onside for another single. And who's the other spinner? If you were looking for one, where would
Swepson? Swepson's got to be the second spinner.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one area of weakness probably in Australian cricket when you think of the backup fast bowlers, there's plenty there. Not the same depth in spin bowling. Nothing like it.
Yes, that's disappointing. They haven't been able to produce them as he bowls to Payne. Takes a quick single down towards mid-on because he's deep out there. Sharma away down the ground, and they get a single. 7 to Payne, 31 to Green. Just a bit more urgency about the batting at the moment as Australia push up towards whatever they want to give themselves time to win the game. As on the back foot, it's played away by Green. Cameron Green out into the covers.
It's especially disappointing the lack of wrist spinners around in Australia. That's really disappointing.
Yes, and Pope from South Australia has been making his debut, and there's a clout from Green. That's a good clout down the pitch and over and away and out to the boundary into Cowed corner. So Green, intent there, got under it. He's 35. It's 5 for 227. Ian Chappell's here, and Andrew Moore is going to get into the chair.
Grandstand Cricket, Australia versus India. On your radio, ABC Sport Digital Radio, and on the
table, thanks to Philip Hetz here at the SCG Trust.
You've been hobnobbing again, Andrew, I hear.
I was a reluctant hobnobber. Very reluctant, but...
I didn't have you in the reluctant category.
As a hobnobber?
Yeah.
No, it's never really been my go, to be honest, but no, it was very pleasant catching up with a few old mates in and around the media. It was good fun. Here's Jasprit Bumrah coming in to Tim Payne, and the Australian captain blocks it down towards mid-on. Vihari picks up no run.
Very good man, Phil Hetz.
He is. His father, one of the great journalists and authors in our lifetime.
Yep.
Ian Hetz, who did a great job running Rugby League Week. He's written dozens of books, all great reads, always very interesting, and a great historian of sport. Headsy, if you're listening, hope you're well, mate. Here's Jasprit Bumrah bowling again to Tim Payne, and he's forward running this away square on the offside, and a diving save by Rahane moving to his right from the gully to prevent a run. Australia 5 for 227, leading by 321. There wasn't any ice cream though, unfortunately, Ian.
Well, thank you for looking anyhow, Andrew. Yeah. Ian Hetz and Norm Tasker did a terrific book on Richie Benaud.
Yep.
After Richie passed away.
They've done a few together. Norm Tasker, another great journalist, author, historian. Here's Bumrah bowling to Payne and gets a nick, and he's dropped it slip. Diving to his left, it's been put down, and they're going to come back for a second run. So 2 runs there to Tim Payne. He moves along to 9, 5 for 229, and Bumrah not having much luck as Rohit Sharma diving missed the opportunity. It was a good ball. He probed at it, did Payne, and lunging to his left, Sharma put it down about 3 inches off the turf.
Yeah, it's been a weakness in the Indian side for a while now, the slip catching. Rahane seems to be the only reliable slip fielder. Pujara caught a decent one in the first innings, but he can't be that good if he's not at first slip when they've only got one slip. Either that or Rohit Sharma's, still suffering from a bit of a hamstring injury, and they've got him at first slip not because he's the best slipper, but because they're sort of trying to protect him a bit. But
and he's had a wide slip too. There's only one of them, but he's very wide.
Yeah, that's you've got to catch those first slip.
So Payne a life on 7. The lead 323. Vihari dropped a sitter early, and remember Australia put down 8 in the Boxing Day test. Bumrah bowls to Payne, and this time he runs a great save by Rahane, diving to his left one-handed. It's funny, isn't it? Rahane obviously terrific in the gully to the quicks and always stands at slip to the spin bowlers.
I think he's a very good slipper. I've mostly seen him there with the spinners, but he's a very good slipper to the spinners. But he looks all right with the quickies as well. But there is a pattern in this Test series. The team that drops the bulk of the catches in each game has lost it, which is not surprising.
The old cliche, catches win matches, drop catches the reverse. Bumrah bowls, and here's a drive by Payne. He struck it nicely through point, and that ball looks like it's going to head to the boundary for 4 runs, despite the efforts of Navdeep Saini. It is a boundary. Tim Payne into double figures. He's 13, 5 for 233. The lead up to 327. And there's one ball to come in this over from Bumrah. As we discovered yesterday, Ian, Ajinkya Rahane holds the record for the most catches in a test match by a non-wicketkeeper with 8.
Right, that's fairly recent then, because it was 7 for a long time.
I think it was in 2015 against Sri Lanka, yeah.
Right. A couple of members of my family were on 7, I think.
A couple you could catch okay. Here's Bumrah bowling to Payne, and Payne runs this wide of Rahane this time. Beats the diving Indian skipper down to the third-man rope for 4 in front of the trumpet stand. So Payne a couple of boundaries after being dropped on 7. He's now 17. And India 5 for 237 at the end of the over. The lead up to 331. 17 to Payne. Cameron Green on 35. No luck again for Bumrah. He has none for 50 after 17 overs.
None for 50 and one sitter and one very catchable catch going down. Yeah, Gregory Stephen definitely was on 7, and I think Victor York Richardson might have been on 7, or maybe he was 6. 6, yeah. There was an Indian, Yuvraj Singh's father. Yeah, I've got a feeling he was Yuvraj's father. He's another one who was on 7, yeah.
Now Rahane on top of the pile, and he's back at slip with Ashwin bowling. Ravi Ashwin 2 for 76 from 22 overs. He's toiling in again, and he's defended by Cameron Green towards mid-wicket. No run, as it's picked up by Prithvi Shaw, the substitute fieldsman out there. Haven't seen Prithvi since the first test in Adelaide, which didn't go his way. Ashwin bowls, and Cameron Green plays this away on the offside with no great timing, and a bit of a stutter between he and Payne. Payne calls him through for the run as Rahane does the fielding at a short third man moving down there from slip, and they do get the run. Green 36, 5 for 238. Lead up to 332.
One of the best comments I've heard from a quickie or from a bowler, over drop catches, was Wes Hall. He played his first game in the Lancashire League. Captain asked him where he wanted his field, and he said 9 slip fielders. And all the nicks kept being dropped and going for 4 and so on. Next game.
Here's Ashwin bowling to Payne, who's driving. Can't beat the short mid-on, no run.
Next game, the captain said, "Where do you want the field, Wes?" He said, "Give me 1 slip and 8 third men. At least I'll stop the boundaries that way."
Ravi Ashwin over the wicket, and here's a lap shot by Payne, and he gets it between the keeper Sahar and the short leg, and he's timed it pretty well. That's going to be 4 down to the fine leg. Really well played by Tim Payne. Got a very fine And that's his third boundary in the last 4 minutes. So he moves along to 21. 5 for 242, the lead 336.
And I think we can see from the way that Tim Payne's playing that he's probably got a declaration in this session. I think, as I said to Clinchy at lunchtime, ideally you want to give the opposition 10 minutes to change. You know, the openers only get time.
Ashwin bowls outside the off stump, carved away by Payne, forward of point, lovely cut shot. 4 runs too short that time from Ashwin, good feet by Payne, and he belted that away for a boundary. He's 25 off 25, 5 for 246, the lead 340.
And it was his footwork that got him in position to play that shot. And that's the thing about footwork. You're trying to get into a position where you can hit the ball where you want it rather than where the bowler wants you to hit it.
Ashwin into Payne again. Payne just defends down to silly mid-on. And it's picked up by Rohit Sharma. No run to end the over. 9 off, 5 for 246. The new ball, should India want it, 4 overs away. The lead 340 with Payne 25, Green 36. On the SMS, afternoon gents, after hearing Chappelli and Clinchy at lunch, your thoughts on bringing live TV coverage of snooker a la the old pot black back? Absolute ABC grandstand fodder with live comments from H.G. Nelson and you, Chappelli. That's the suggestion from John at Balmain.
So what am I supposed to be, the whispering Ted Lowe, am I?
I think you could be.
With the gloves on?
100%.
Yeah?
Why wouldn't you?
Oh, no, I don't know about the gloves or the snooker knowledge. A bit behind Whispering Ted. But it was a great show. I used to love watching
so did I.
Hot Black.
My interest in snooker evaporated probably with the end of that show.
Yeah?
And Whispering Ted.
No, you got to watch Ronnie O'Sullivan any time you get a chance, mate. He is a genius.
So now it's Bumrah. Back to the cricket, 5 for 246 Australia in its second innings, and Green's on strike. 36 from 92 deliveries, and he's forward beaten. Good delivery outside the off stump. Green came forward, played at it, missed outside the outside edge, and through it goes to Sahar, the keeper.
Bumrah really does give Green a few headaches. I mean, it's not surprising. He's a very fine bowler, but he's definitely got a bit of an advantage over Green at the moment. There's obviously a few snooker fans out there. Any of you who haven't seen Ronnie O'Sullivan's fastest 147 maximum break should have a look at it.
Making a note, Bumrah to Green, pushes it into the covers. Will he get a run? Yes, to Vihari, who shies at the non-strikers, then misses, backed up by the keeper. Good running. Green moves to 37, 5 for 247. Australia leading by 341.
5 minutes 20 seconds for a maximum of 147. In other words, 36 pots, so roughly about 10 seconds a pot. It's ridiculous. But that's how good he is.
See, I can hear you commentating that.
See, the other thing about Ronnie that I love, he's playing, I can't remember who he's playing, but he's potted the first red and turned to the referee and said, is there any special prize for a maximum? He's potted one red, wow, and he's thinking maximum.
That's your kind of dude. Here's Bumrah. Bowling to Tim Payne, who's been very aggressive. This time he pushes it towards Ashwin at mid-on and can't get a run.
And just to follow on with that, he actually potted them all to the pink and then put his cue down because the referee came back and said, no, there's no special prize. It's only for the highest break. So he potted them all up to the pink, put the cue down. The referee said, mate, you've got to pot the black. No, what's the point?
No prize.
Anyhow, the referee eventually convinced him to pot the black.
Bumrah bowling to Payne, who is defending back down the pitch, and Bumrah fields in his follow-through, and then an exaggerated flick back at the stumps. It didn't connect. What about darts? Are you into darts?
No. Oh, I mean, I was... When we used to do Wide World of Sports, Jockey Wilson and the crafty Cockney, Eric Bristow. And,
yes.
They were interesting characters.
Eric Bristow, I used to remember watching him on that show, yeah.
The crafty Cockney, mate.
Mate of mine, Stuart Pike from the old dart. He's earning his living calling darts around the world and doing a great job as Bumrah has Payne pushing to mid-wicket and there's no run.
So he's got the 180, has he?
That's Pikey now.
Yeah.
He's come out to Sydney a few times over the last 4 years when they've had the championship out at Sydney or Melbourne, wherever it is, follows it around the world. He also calls a lot of rugby league in the Northern Hemisphere in the UK. And he might be listening now through BBC 5 Live Sports Extra. Here's Bumrah. On his way, Tim Payne, who's on 25, is forward, pushing to mid-on. Can he get a run? No. His intent was to take one, but Ashwin moved too quickly to his left. Dot ball. 5 for 2, 4, 7. With one ball to come in the over. Is that it? No, that's the end of the over. Bumrah, 18 overs, no wicket for 51.
That's what the world's crying out for, good rugby league callers.
That's right. Desperately needed, you reckon?
Oh, desperately needed.
Not as much as the world needs Ian Chappell moving into the realm of calling snooker, not just on TV but on radio as well. With H.G. Nelson. What a mixture that would be.
HG, eh?
Would you enjoy that humour working alongside calling snooker?
Oh, yeah, I enjoy their humour. I think it's... I mean, Rampaging Roy, it used to stagger me back in the days when it was 2BL 702, and he used to do the afternoon show.
Oh, John Doyle.
2 till 3, yeah.
I used to love it.
And I'd be driving to tennis.
Here's Ashwin bowling to Cameron Green, who tries to slog this one, gave himself room, gets an under edge, and it runs down to short fine leg, and the slip Rahane ends up chasing it down. They get a run, an unconvincing run for Cameron Green. He's 38. It is 5 for 248.
So you'd hear John Doyle, I'd be driving to tennis, and you'd hear him talking to scientists about black holes and be talking to nuclear physicists and making a lot of sense. And then you'd hear him do a rugby league call, and you'd think, who's this maniac? How can it be the same guy?
Listening to John Doyle do his afternoon show, and it's lucky I got to see him a lot through the winter when he and HG came back to the airwaves, but a listener could ring about curtains, and all of a sudden he'd be interested in the style of curtain and how you put the curtain up, and knew stuff about everything.
Yeah, he does.
Very intelligent man and very softly spoken.
Yeah.
Whereas Rampaging Roy is the opposite. It's fantastic. So now it's Payne on strike, purveying the field. He sees a short leg, deep backward square leg, mid-wicket, deep mid-wicket, long on, and he's pushing it back to the bowler, Ravi Ashwin. There's only 3 on the offside. Rahane at slip, a backward point and a mid-off. 5 for 248. Actually, they did a couple of promos for our rugby league coverage for the finals, and it was like bucket list. Roy Slaven crossing to us at the footy. I'll take that.
The brick with eyes.
Glenn Lazarus. Here's a reverse sweep by Payne. Doesn't get all of it, though. Runs to backward point, and there's no run. Fielded by Agarwal.
The tap. Mark Geyer, the tap. Runs hot and cold.
The man the Poms hate, Paul Sirenen, or the Buttocks. Ravi Ashwin bowls, and Payne just defends to mid-wicket. There's no run. 248.
One of their best was the Bamfords. They said, here come the Bamfords. And I couldn't work out what the hell they were talking about. So I asked Darryl Eastlake, I said, what's this about the Bamfords? And he said, oh, mate, that is unbelievable knowledge. He said in 1959, I think it was, in England.
Here's Ashwin coming around the wicket to Payne, and he pushes it back to the bowler, no run.
There was a referee, an English referee, who absolutely murdered the Australians, and they got beaten in the game, and his name was Bamford. And so from then on, the rest were, here come the Bamfords.
Ashwin has a reverse sweep, is very successful this time by Payne, over backward point for 4 runs in front of the members' stand. Tim Payne moves to 29, the lead up to 346 at 5 for 252. Ashwin now 24 overs, 2 for 90. Incidentally, Cricket Australia just letting us know that day 5 tomorrow, and there could be play for a significant part of day 5, you can come to the ground just for a donation to the McGrath Foundation. Can be whatever you like. Gates will be open at 9 a.m. for all fans. Play commencing at 10 a.m. All patrons, including SCG members, are required to have a ticket, which will be socially distanced within the allocated row, but you can purchase one of those tickets for simply a donation to the McGrath Foundation. So that's fantastic, and hopefully we get as many as we can, not only coming to the cricket, but doing just that.
So there will be a limit on the number, though.
I'd assume so. It'll be the same thing, and they can't get more than 25% in, which is, up to 11,000 or thereabouts.
Right.
There are some people getting perturbed yesterday by the official crowd figure as 10,075 because it was widely reported that 10,000 would be the max. That was never thus. It was always 25%, which is about 11 or 11,500 people. So they tend to sell unders through these COVID times. Navdeep Saini coming into the attack, 2 for 47 or 14 overs, 5 for 252, 346 the lead, and that's the other thing for Australia in working out timing of a declaration. So they bat till tea, they'll still have 130 odd overs left.
Yeah, the way Tim Payne, and this is good to see the captain, if the captain wants things moved along, he's doing it himself, which is very good. But I think the way he's going about it, they're going to be declaring sometime in this session, and I reckon he's just going to give them 10 minutes changeover.
So it's Saini on debut, bowls to Green, and he pushes it off his hip towards Vihari at mid-wicket, and there's no run. It's the smallest crowd that we've seen in the 4 days today. Just 5,500 or thereabouts at lunch. Tick over 10,000 yesterday, took us to 27,819 for the 3 days. And again, still my favourite quote was Will Pukowski, Chappelli, who we spoke with after his 62 on. In fact, we spoke to him after the opening day, and he couldn't believe how many people were at the ground and the noise they made. He said it's by far and away the biggest crowd he'd ever played before.
Yeah?
And it was 8,500 people. Saini in, and Green pushes on the back foot towards point. No run. Sharma picks up, who I notice is no longer in the slips. Bajara's back there.
The big difference between the SCG and the MCG when I played was you couldn't hear a thing out in the middle at the MCG. In fact, if the fieldsman in the gully wasn't looking at you, he wouldn't hear you if you were trying to move him. Whereas at the SCG, you could hear the comments, and the stuff that used to come off the hill, there was some classics off the hill.
None of them sports drink inspired, I'm sure. Saini bowls to Green, and he runs this to Rahane in the gully. On the bounce, no run.
One of the best, Bill O'Reilly wrote a column, the anniversary, the 100th year of the SCG, and he wrote a column, My Favourite Ground, and he said, I remember well the first time I played here. He said, as I set foot onto the SCG, Yabba's voice boomed out from the hill saying, son, the O may be in front of your name now, but have a look where it is on your way back. And he said, sadly, he was right.
Sadie bowls to Green, short ball pulled away, great shot, backward of square, 4 runs. That met the meat of the bat. Nice shot by Green. Saini again bowls well and then gives up the 4 ball. That was too short. And Green moves along to 42. With Australia 5 for 256, that lead now 350.
Yeah, he's just starting to branch out a bit and play a few extravagant shots, Green. But I'd make sure that you get that 50 first, and then do what the captain's doing, move things along.
He's on 42. Saini in again down the leg side, and it's flicked away backward of square. There's some protection there. Can it beat it? No. Good bit of fielding by Agarwal, maintaining his feet in front of the Brawongal stand, and they get a couple. So Green to 44 from 100 deliveries, 5 for 258, 352 is the lead.
I got a very good lesson as a young bloke. I was playing in a club game, and it was the second innings where nothing much could happen. And Leon Boot Hill, who played for South Australia and Queensland, walked past me, and I was sort of playing a few rash shots, and he said, son, a 40 not out wouldn't do you any harm at all. And it was really good advice. It got me on a sequence of scores.
Saini to Green, and he can't add to his total here as he plays it to mid-wicket. The ball parried away, and Green thought about a cheeky run after Vihari got his hands to it, and that ends the over. A 50-run partnership, by the way, coming off 67 deliveries between this pair. Australia 5 for 258, 1 over before the second new ball is due. The lead 352, with Cameron Green on 44, Tim Payne on 29, and out in this session, Steve Smith, LBW to Ashwin for 81. Ian and I are going to head out and try and find some ice cream. Drinks are on the field. Jim Maxwell and Alex Blackwell are coming in. Let's get the latest right now of the news headlines from the ABC Newsroom.
David Rowlands with the ABC News headlines. New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian has revealed that Victoria hopes to reopen its border to New South Wales next week. New South Wales Health is warning against complacency, though, with the state recording 3 new coronavirus cases today. Meanwhile, Queensland has registered no new infections in the past 24 hours amid the 3-day lockdown across Greater Brisbane. Arson squad detectives are investigating the cause of a house fire that claimed the lives of a woman and 3 children in Melbourne's southeast early this morning. And Indonesian rescuers have pulled out body parts, pieces of clothing and scraps of metal from the Java Sea a day after a Boeing 737-500 with 62 people on board crashed shortly after takeoff from Jakarta.
If you're not going through an emergency situation right now, it might be the perfect time to explore the all-new ABC Emergency website. ABC Emergency lets you search for incidents near you, or you can check on other locations around the country. There's also a handy button that lets you listen to the local ABC radio station closest to the emergency. abc.net.au/emergency. Save it in your favourites now and keep listening to ABC Radio, your emergency broadcaster. Grandstand Cricket, 60 minutes in 60 seconds.
Ashwin caught him on the pad. They're appealing for LBW. They're going to appeal. They're going to the third umpire at India.
Okay, so the impact is in line and the wickets is hitting.
Out. Steve Smith is out.
Bumrah bowling to Payne, and Payne runs this wide of Rahane this time. Beats the diving Indian skipper down to the third man rope for 4 in front of the trumpet stand. Bumrah bowls, and here's a drive by Payne. He struck it nicely through point, and that ball looks like it's going to head to the boundary for 4 runs, despite the efforts of Navdeep saying it is a boundary. Here's Bumrah bowling to Payne and gets a nick, and he's dropped it slip. Diving to his left, it's been put down, and they're going to come back for a second run.
Grandstand Cricket, Australia versus India. On your radio, ABC Sport Digital Radio, and on the ABC Listen app.
And the players still enjoying some refreshments out there, with Australia leading by 352. Alex Blackwell's alongside me. Nice and relaxed. Bit of socialising going on.
Well, it was a lovely lunch we had, media lunch in the Venues New South Wales suite. It was lovely. Got to talk to Jeanette and John Howard, which was brilliant.
Right. Sally Lone was there too, an old star of the ABC radio. I had a chat to her. Yes, all sorts of people. Steve Waugh was there. I think his book was on display. And yes, the 2 Australian cricketers at the lunch were Steve Waugh and Alex Blackwell. Yeah.
Well, it was an honour to be there, but there was a lot of talk about declarations and what Australia would be doing, how Cameron Green was finding his feet as a young Test player out in the middle at the SCG. He's going along nicely now. Maiden Test 50 would be nice to get under the belt. But Australia have a fantastic lead at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised if a declaration occurs before tea.
Yes, maybe get that little milestone of Cameron Green's maiden half-century behind him. I wonder. You would think so. You'd think sometime in the next hour or so. Unless there's a splatter of wickets and they're all out. But at this stage it doesn't look like that's going to happen. They're taking a few more risks, but nothing outrageous. Not yet. And Rahane's thinking, how do I stop this? So this field is unusual for Ashwin, who's bowling around the wicket with a mid-off, a deep backward point right on the boundary, or he's coming in a yard or 2 now, and a slip, and then 6 on the onside in every spot as he bowls down the leg side, and that is going to be a bye, I think, as he tried to sweep. He missed it. Saha unsided, couldn't tidy it up, and they got a run. Well, he's going to bowl outside the leg stump. This will test the umpire too if he does it consistently, because it'll wide him if it's outside and going away. He's packed onside field and he bowls on the line of the pads, and it bounces away on the onside.
So very defensive bowling by the look of it. That deep backward point is an unusual position, especially for Cameron Green. We've seen Tim Payne play the reverse sweep, but not Green.
And Green goes forward, and he miscues off a leading edge, but there's no one at home at point because he's out in the country, so they get an easy single.
Well, it shouldn't have been a single really to Green. I really don't think that deep point fielder needs to stay out there. Definitely for Payne, because it's sort of a get out of jail shot for him.
Now Payne twiddles it around the corner, and not enough placement on it to get the single. So, yes, Ashwin, I don't think he'd be too happy with having that deep point. He'd reckon he'd call him in. It's just a gift run if he bowls straight.
No boundary options here for Payne. Singles on offer.
He bowls outside the leg stump, and there we go. More runs. These will be byes. It's coming down towards the boundary. Will it get to the rope? It does. And they are runs. He actually got a bit on that as he chased it outside the leg stump and under-edged it past Saha. But I think it's a poor tactic, this sort of cricket. And the best way to stop people scoring runs is to get them out, of course, but bowling outside the leg stump with the 6-3 field, now that fine leg is going around to, well, I won't say long stop, but let's say short fine leg and even finer. And back goes Payne, works it away towards square. So India anticipating a declaration and bowling to dry up the shop. 5 for 264. With Payne 33 and Green 45.
Well, I think Australia have plenty of runs. There's plenty of time available to bowl India out. Australia would be quite happy to just let a few overs roll on by here as Green approaches a half-century, first in Test cricket, and as the wicket continues to be worn by Ashwin at the Randwick end, and Saini looks like he'll be continuing from the City end.
Now, Rick, I've got a question for you on notice. If someone hasn't already asked this question while I wasn't around, but most number of catches taken in an innings and or test match by SUB, by a sub, because sub's got 3, that's Saha in this innings, and I gather it goes down against the name of sub, not Saha. So just contemplate that one for a moment as we watch Saini come running in to start a new over, and he's pushed away by Cameron Green into the gully. In case you're wondering, today Labuschagne was caught sub down the leg side by of Saini for 73. Wade was caught sub Saha of Saini for 4. And Steve Smith via DRS LBW to Ashwin for 81. Sorry to put you on the spot, Rick, but you love these questions. Have you got an answer?
Yes. We've actually talked about this morning.
Ah, good. You shouldn't have said that. You should have said it was fresh news. Yeah.
Happy to repeat it.
Well, the other people listening is Saini bowls and Green defends on the onside. So what's the story?
Yunus Khan took 4 catches in the second innings of a test match for Pakistan in 2001.
Uh-huh.
There have been a number of 3s, but I also mentioned Jackson Bird, who took 4 catches in a match at the SCG here 4 years ago. 2 in each innings, though, as subs.
So do they get credited with those catches on their test record?
No.
It's that bloke sub.
Yes.
So that's the next question, of course, as Saini runs in and bowls it, and it's pushed away on the offside for a quick single because mid-off's a little bit deep. And they get through comfortably. He's 46. So how many catches has Sub taken in the history of Test cricket?
I'll have a look to see if I can answer that.
Sorry, Rick.
But we'll see how we go.
I reckon there'd be a lot. Because we've got famous incidents that, they're brilliant catch. I didn't see it. I was a bit young. Copley, I think at Trent Bridge, got Stan McCabe out, the substitute fieldsman.
Sid Copley.
And, yes, Steve Copley, I think it was. Anyway, Copley, yes. But there have been plenty of sub-fielders who've taken catches as he pitches right up and is banged away down towards mid-on. I remember 1, or maybe 2, was at Peter Cantrell in the gully, substituting in a test match at the Gabba years ago. He was the sub. They used to send 12th men back to play for their Shield team, and so a local bloke would do the subbing. It was Peter Cantrell.
A club player?
Yeah, well, he played. No, Peter Cantrell played for Queensland. He's a very good player. Yeah.
And what made that catch stand out to you, Jim?
Well, I think there were 2 of them. That's what made it stand out.
Right.
As he bowls the ball, is pushed away by Payne on the offside. I think they were both in the gully. I don't think there was anything remarkable about it other than the fact that it was SUB who took the catch.
So a sub-fielder who has not played Test cricket, you'd imagine a catch shouldn't go to their test catch record. But if you've played a test, perhaps it should go to your record.
Well, it should be in parentheses or something. We'll see what Rick thinks about that little addendum required to his scrapbook of numbers. A slip and a gully, and Saini running in and Payne playing again defensively. Can't do much with that. And Paul Wilson wanders away nonchalantly at the end of the over, and the lead is what's it up to now? The score's 5 for 265. The second new ball is actually due if they want to take it, and that's I don't know, they're 3:59 ahead, I think, at the moment. So Rick, sorry to put you on notice again, but I know you're up for it. So what do you do with all those statistics?
Well, on my scorecards, they're just caught sub.
If I ask you to find Peter Cantrell taking 2 catches or something, it's not easy to find.
No, I'd have to know the match. Then I could find it. Yep.
We're really putting Rick through his paces, aren't we? And the listeners with all their questions.
Well, I'm sure by the end of the afternoon I can get him onto something stronger than tea for keep up this. Yeah. But in terms of someone's career, as Alex says, if you've taken a catch as a sub and you are a test cricketer, how do you record that in terms of their record? That they must get some recognition for taking a catch if they haven't actually played in the game?
No.
Well, no.
And then if you're a concussion substitute, those statistics go to your test stats, I'd imagine. Rick, please correct me. And then you would also be recorded as having a test match recorded against your name. Is that right, Rick?
That's correct, yes. Once you're in the team, then you can have